She destroyed the world #1 in just 58 minutes. The world's hardcourt stage is neither in a practice match nor in a fantasy on the largest Indian wells. And nobody saw it coming. This is the story of Alexandra Eala, a 20-year-old Filipino girl who did more than just compete when she faced the most feared player in the world in the arena known as the Fifth Grand Slam. She destroyed her game after game, point by point, until the spectators stopped watching tennis. They were witnessing something very different. Something that happens only once every generation. This story improves with each new chapter. Stay with us, then. To understand what happened in Indian Wells in March 2026, you had to go back to the beginning of this. Nor did it start on a WTA 1000 hard court in the sweltering heat of California. The beginning was in Manila. In the junior rooms of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, a quiet but dedicated Filipina girl from an athletic family was learning how to turn her untapped potential into something that may shake the women's tennis world. Alexandra Eala, or Alex to her friends, was ranked 143rd in the world in 2025. Neither in the headlines nor in conversations about the game's future. She was one of several promising names on the list. Experts recognize this type of player, but they don't give them much credit. Not quite yet. They failed to notice this. But Eala was not just expanding. She was also building and absorbing knowledge. She was investigating every loss, every tight game, every situation where the game exposed a weakness. And one by one, using the technical foundation of a player who belonged in elite company, she was methodically and discreetly removing such defects. She spent years honing her skills at the Rafa Nadal Academy under the guidance of Jean Bosch. All she needed was the opportunity to prove it. That event took place in Miami in March 2025. She entered as a wild card because the WTA wanted to see what she could do. A player who didn't rank in the top 130 was given a golden ticket to compete against the world's top players. Even now, it seems nearly impossible to describe what she achieved without coming out as fantastical. She defeated Yelena Astino. She then triumphed over Madison Keys, the reigning US Open champion. The tennis community paused what it was doing and listened to that. She lost in straight sets to Egatek, who at the time was ranked second in the world. Neat, confident, and in control. She became the first wild card in history after defeating 3 major winners in straight sets in a single WTA tournament. Let that settle in for a while. The first in the entire history of the WTA circuit. She continued after that. By reaching the WTA 1000 competition semifinals, she accomplished yet another first for the Philippines. By March 31st, she was the first Filipino player to ever place in the top 100 of the WTA. She won her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. She made history in the US Open as the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam singles match under the Open era. She completed 2025 in 50th position after starting the year ranked 143rd in the world. And when asked what 2025 meant to her on Instagram, Eala replied, "My dreams have truly come alive." It is truly a blessing to reflect on this year and relive these amazing moments in memory. This season and all the emotions that go together with it are a love letter to my family, friends, team, everyone who has helped me along the way in my tennis career, and of course, baby Alex. The unthinkable has already been done by this girl. The question was simple and frightening before to Indian Wells 2026. Could she do it again? Would you like to know what makes Indian Wells unique among WTA competitions? There are other considerations besides the reward money. There's more to it than just the gorgeous scenery and the immaculate blue courts. It's the atmosphere. In Indian Wells, it seems like a grand slam. The crowds are enormous, like when it breathes. Pressure is always present. The best athletes in the world come with something to prove. With a serve that sounds like a thunderclap and a baseline game that has at one point or another crushed every notable champion of her era, the player at the top of the draw for the 2026 event was, predictably, the same person. The top player in the world, Aryna Savarna, is a strong Belarus player at Indian Wells. She was the current finalist. She just had a successful campaign at the Australian Open. When she arrived in the California desert, she knew she was the undisputed champion of women's tennis. Ally, who is currently rated 32nd in the globe, made it to the quarterfinals of the Dubai Tennis Championships. She was visiting Indian Wells for the first time in her career. She was worthy of a seat. She had upset Jasmine Pauini, the 8th-ranked player in the world, in Dubai just a few weeks prior. She radiated confidence, vitality, and the unbridled hunger of someone who had been through the biggest stages and wanted more. But there is a problem with wealth in India. The draw is unaffected by your story. The draw doesn't care if you're hungry. Whoever the draw selects to pair you with. When the Indian Wells draw was revealed, there was also a possibility that Eala and Sabalenka would compete in the fourth round. The experts laughed and brushed it aside. The bookmakers barely gave it another glance. Sabalenka was the favorite. Sabalenka was always the favorite. One analyst warned that Alexandra Eala might be a risky floater prior to the competition. She doesn't rely on her serve and went 44 against the top 20 and 22 against the top 10. The ceiling exists. It's a real ceiling. Those three words, that silent understanding, were tucked away in an analytical column that most people just looked at. Not even the most devoted Filipinos living abroad, who had been closely following Eala's every step, could have entirely foreseen what would transpire on that court. In the end, those three words summed up the entire tennis season. It was so fast, so neat, and so ruthlessly efficient that the audience was unable to understand what they were witnessing in real time. Something that would be talked about for years to come. In the Californian afternoon, the game began. Furthermore, Eala's uniqueness was clear from the first game. It wasn't tight, tense, or nervous, but there was something almost eerie about its calm. She moved purposefully toward the baseline. By returning Sabalenka's initial serves, those brutal hefty offers that had previously crushed so many opponents with depth and angle, she immediately upset the World No.1's rhythm. Sabalenka tried to scare her way into the competition as usual. A powerful forehand and large serve caused the opponent to make a mistake by pushing them back. Everyone had suffered as a result. It was working against everyone in 2026. It wasn't working today. There was no retreating. She was assuming control. She was absorbing the power, rerouting it, and attacking the open court before Sabalenka could reset. Her aggressive style, quick footwork, and rally endurance allowed her to combine offensive play with prolonged exchanges. And on this particular occasion, that balance was ideal. The first set ended before the audience could settle into their seats. 6-2 Eala. The mood of the stadium abruptly shifted. There is a murmur among the throng when they realize they are witnessing something extraordinary. The muttering started somewhere in the upper seats and swept down toward the court like a wave. As the second set got underway, Eala didn't slow down. She wasn't holding out. She wasn't exercising caution in the hopes that Sabalenka would become unstable due to her own stress. She was issuing commands. The world's top player was being forced to play her game. Every return was a statement. Every shot that went through was a declaration. There were thousands of Filipina fans standing in the stadium. The same kind of crowd that had surrounded Eala in Dubai and Manila, making every tournament she took part in feel like a return home. The clock displayed the last point touchdown at 58, 62, and 61 minutes. The game ended before it appeared to have actually started. The stadium caught fire. Thousands of spectators, who had just watched a 20-year-old Filipino girl enter the biggest hardcourt outside of a Grand Slam and crush the World No.1 as she had done 100 times before, let out a full-fledged thundering outcry. For an upset, there was neither polite applause nor a golf clap. I raised her arms. As she looked up into the sky, she momentarily lost her composure, not out of fear or grief, but out of pure disbelieving ecstasy. In just a few minutes, social media took off. Not just in the Philippines, where the reaction was immediate, pervasive, and nearly explosive. Nonetheless, tennis enthusiasts worldwide who had been following Eala's rise since Miami 2025 felt validated. The experts who had characterized her as ceiling genuine but restricted were now reconsidering all they had stated. Former victors were posting and reposting the match clips. The hashtags were there in a flash. Alex Eala was well-liked in over a dozen countries even before the post-match press conference started. After staying up all night to watch the game, Philippine sports reporters were typing stories as fast as their keyboards would allow. The word historic appeared in literally hundreds of headlines in the first hour. But underneath the celebrations, flags, cacophony, and pure joy of a nation witnessing one of its own accomplish something previously unimaginable, there was also a deeper conversation going on. Because it wasn't just Eala who enjoyed her day. This competition left a mark. Instead than just winning people over, this type of performance changes their perception. Because this is what the statistics showed prior to that game. It totally reframes the discussion of who should and shouldn't be at the top of the sport. Sabalenka has only suffered a few losses in the past 12 months. She has at least once vanquished every major rival in recent memory. Her serve frequently reached speeds of over 180 km per hour against a woman who was not in the top 30 and was making her first appearance at Indian Wells. Her forehand produced more power than nearly every other female player on the circuit. She would coast, as was to be anticipated. Rather, she was defeated in less than an hour by a girl who had not only caught up but surpassed a girl who had started the year ranked 143rd in the world. And while retaining the cool-headedness that has come to characterize her, Eala made a straightforward but impactful statement at the post-match press conference. "I believe in myself. I believed in myself for a very long time. I just wanted it to be seen by everyone." The fortunate girl did not reply with those words, that firm, silent confidence. That was how a potential champion responded. We must now take a step back from the chaos, the celebrations, and the viral videos and think about the true significance of this accomplishment for women's tennis in general. Discussions about the next generation of tennis players and who might challenge Servette, Sabalenka, and golf's dominance in the future have been going on for years. A succession of names emerged, then disappeared. Players who appeared to be the future were consumed by the tour's grind. Expectations alone have caused careers that should have flourished to end. In tennis, potential is rarely given enough credit. In tennis, only performance is rewarded. Eala has been performing since Miami 2025, and not just occasionally, on a consistent, rising trajectory that hasn't wavered. She was the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player in history, starting 2025 at 147th and ending the season at a career-high 50th in the global rankings. She won roughly $1 million in prize money over the course of 27 events. She made history in the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. Every single Grand Slam main draw was a first. Every individual was viewed as a chance rather than a luxury. Importantly, this is the part that sets the exceptional players apart from the mediocre ones. In fact, she has beaten players with better rankings than herself twice. Keys, Ostapenko, Shvi, Paueli, and now Sabalenka. They're not flukes. These are patterns. Eala reached a career-high ranking of number 32 in the world following strong results in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Manila, suggesting that her momentum is not slowing down. It's accelerating. Now consider this. She is 20 years old. She is playing in her first Indian Wells match. She hasn't made it to the Grand Slam quarterfinals yet. She hasn't yet been able to effectively defend a major title. According to the phrase's most rigorous technical definition, she is still a rising player. The Eala that vanquished Sabalenka in 58 minutes is not the final version. This is the first chapter. That's not hype, either. That is neither mindless nationalism nor an emotional projection from a people in desperate need of a hero. That is an honest and objective evaluation of the information, the course, and the evidence of what this young woman has achieved thus far. Eala herself stated, "The obvious answer, which has always kind of been my answer, was to win slams and to be world number one. Those, in my opinion, are sort of everyone's desire, and I consider myself to be fairly ambitious," the speaker said in an exclusive interview regarding 2026. Without hesitation or arrogance, she stated it plainly. She knows exactly where she's going. The only question left is how soon she will arrive. 58 minutes. That was all that was needed, not 10 years or a lifetime of waiting. In just 58 minutes on a blue hard court in the California desert, Alexandria changed the history of women's tennis and the entire nation. She was ranked 32nd when she entered the world. She departed after defeating the best player in the world, and she did it with composure, accuracy, and the composed confidence of someone who always knew this day was coming, even when no one else did.